Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dakeless Wargaming, and today we're going to take a look at how terrain affects charging in 8th edition of Warhammer 40,000. Let's get to it. Alright folks, if you want to follow along, please turn to page 248 of the main rulebook for Warhammer 8th edition, the Battlefield Terrain section. The first piece of terrain in the section is the woods, which you can see here in front of us. We have some Space Marine Scouts of the Dark Angels variety in it, and we have some Hormagaunts that wish to assault them over here. Now the second paragraph of the terrain rules here state that models are slowed when charging through woods. If, when a unit charges, one or more of its models have to move across a wood base or a wood's base, you must subtract 2 inches from the unit's charge distance, so -2 to the roll. So we're going to indicate that here with this red die, that it is -2 to the roll. So I have my Hormagaunts here. They wish to charge Scouts. I'm going to roll 2 dice here. And I rolled a 10, which would be more than enough. But with the modified roll, right, -2 due to the woods, it would actually be an 8-inch charge. So I would measure from my closest models. 8 inches is more than enough to contact these guys, so this charge would succeed. And I'd move this guy here to show that. The next piece of terrain are ruins. Infantry models are assumed to be able to scale walls and traverse through windows, doors, and portals readily. These models can therefore move through the floors, walls of a ruin without further impediment. This is the second paragraph on page 248 of the main rule book. So what this essentially means is that I can ignore this wall here between the Space Marine Scouts and my Hormagaunts when making my charge roll. And if you're playing with ITC rules, they go even further to clarify that as long as I can get within an inch of the Space Marine Scouts here on the side of the wall by charging into this side of the wall and this side over here, then the charge is legal. So I just have to get a guy to the wall that will get them within an inch of these models here, and that will make a successful charge. So let's try that out. Got 2 dice here. Make my charge, 7 inches. I measure here. That will get me to the wall, and the wall is within an inch of the enemy model. See that guy's within an inch of the wall. And I can therefore move my guys up to the wall to assault the Space Marines. There you have it, a completed charge through a wall of a ruin. There is more than one kind of ruin in 8th edition of Warhammer 40,000. In this case, we have the infamous or famous enclosed ruins or magic box of the ITC. So you see here I have a fully enclosed ruin with 4 sides and a roof. I'll take this roof off to show that I have Dark Angel Scouts inside of it. Now, an enclosed ruin still follows the normal rules for ruins. So all I have to do is get within an inch of an enemy model as long as I'm up against this wall here. So if I can get to the wall and be within an inch of an enemy model, I still have a successful charge. So I'm going to roll my 2 dice here. I got a 9, so I just have to get a guy to the wall, which I can. And that gets him within an inch of an enemy model, because they're within an inch of the wall, which means that charge will be completed. And now, since these are infantry, according to the rules of the charge phase, infantry can pass through the walls of ruins as if they weren't there. So this guy in the back here can actually come all the way through this wall and charge this guy over here. So if you want to avoid charges, what you want to do is be more than an inch away from the walls of an enclosed ruin. But if it's infantry that is trying to charge you, know that they will be able to come through the walls as if they weren't there and charge you. Now, also according to ITC, the first floor of a ruin blocks line of sight. So this means this charge will not suffer any overwatch when it happens. So be aware of that when playing with the magic box. Continuing on, we have craters. The second paragraph on page 249 under craters states that models are slowed when charging across craters. If, When a unit charges, one or more of its models have to move across a crater, you must subtract 2 from the unit's charge distance, or -2 from the roll. So to indicate that, I have a -2 die here. So I'm going to get my 2 dice here. I'm going to make this roll. It is a 6. Subtract 2 from that. That means we go down to a 4. Is that enough? Remember, I have to get within an inch of an enemy model. So in fact, I am short. So this charge would actually fail due to the terrain rules in the main rule book. So if you have some craters, it's important to remember this rule because it may cause someone to fail a fairly easy charge, such as this one. For this next demonstration, we're going to talk about obstacles. This piece of terrain here in the middle of the board, for the purposes of this demonstration, will be an obstacle and not a barricade. Looking at page 249 of the main rule book, an obstacle in the charge phase, if and when a unit charges or advances, one or more of its models have to move over an obstacle. You must have the unit's advance or charge distance as appropriate, rounding up. Titanic models are not slowed by obstacles. So Imperial Knights are not slowed by this, but everything else is. And be aware that this said halves, not -2. Everything up to this point has been a -2. This is a straight up half the roll. So let's find out what happens. I have my Hormagaunts here, ready to go into these Dark Angel Scouts. Make my roll. I got a 9. Halving and rounding up, that is going to be a 5-inch charge. So let's get the measuring tape out here and find out. So for this guy, if he gets his 5 inches up to the wall here, he will get within an inch of an enemy model, but just barely. So what should have been a comfortable charge for me is actually going to barely succeed due to the obstacle rules in the main rule book of 8th edition Warhammer 40,000. We move on to Battlescape. So I have a Battlescape here in front of me, and the rules on page 250 of the main rule book state, roll dice for each time a model advances or charges across Battlescape. On a roll of 1, that model has triggered a mine and suffers a mortal wound. Models that can fly can still trigger mines, but only if they charge across Battlescape. So let's try that out. So I got my Hormagaunts here, Space Marine Scouts over there that are the Dark Angels flavor. I roll my dice. I got a 6 here. Well, that is not exciting. Oh, this guy will get within an inch of an enemy model if he makes that charge. So here he goes. Moves to 6 inches, gets within an inch of an enemy model, completes the charge. As I am a Savvy Tyranid player, I've only allowed 4 models here while maintaining unit cohesion to get into the Battlescape, so only they will have to roll dice. So for this first guy, on a roll of 1, he suffers a mortal wound. Ooh, he does, so he will die. This guy, he survives. That guy, he survives. And this guy, he also survives. So in this example, I'm only going to lose 1 Hormagaunt due to the Battlescape rules in the main rule book. Finally, we're going to consider hills. According to the main rule book on page 251, hills, whether freestanding or modeled into the battlefield itself, are raised areas that offer troops on top of them commanding views in fields of fire. Hills are always considered to be a part of the battlefield rather than a terrain feature, and so models on top of them do not receive the benefits of cover. Some particularly large hills may block a model's visibility to a target unit, however, so get a model's eye view to see if this is ever the case. So in terms of charging, hills are no different than a flat part of the board, but you do want to account for the vertical distance of going up a hill when making your charge. So I make this charge here from my Hormagaunts to the Dark Angel Scouts, so these guys here to these guys up here on the hill. I roll my dice, I roll an 8, so I'm going to measure from the first guy to the hill, which is 2 inches, and then I want to measure up the hill, which is about 2 inches, so that is 4 inches. I'm going to count for this little piece here. I'll say that's an inch, so that is 5 inches. 7 inches up to this point here. And then from there, I get 1 more inch to be 8, and that 8 will get me within an inch of this enemy model here. So if I get to move him up here, this guy will end his turn, or his charge move, within an inch of an enemy model, which will make this charge a successful charge. That is how you account for hills when making a charge in Warhammer 8th edition. So there you have it, folks. That is how terrain interacts with charging in Warhammer 40,000 8th edition. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. If you want to know more about Dankless Wargaming, please check the description below. Until next time, I'm Bailey, reminding you that if your lists start to tank, then it is time to get dank.